All right, awesome. Well, welcome everyone to our special coaching session tonight. This has been on my mind for a long time. If you took a live class with me, then I've been talking about a sort of like recharge, getting restarted, and I really had to figure out the best way to do it. And we've launched some new products. I want to show you all that. And also we have a special guest, Kristen, who passed the PMP exam this weekend above target in all of the 3 domains. I am so proud of her. Kristen came to me about 6 weeks ago and she said, Majuba, I need to pass this exam. And she gave me a date. And I was like, okay, well, this is going to be a challenge, but I think we can do it. And she committed to her schedule and passed this exam. She has a lot of obligations as a mom of a little cutie. So I think most of us in here in this class are parents, working professionals, taking care of kids or, other loved ones. And so part of the goal here today is to have Kristen share her experience using the 3T system in passing the PMP exam all above target. We'll run about 20 minutes of that with her sharing her story, and then you all will get an opportunity to ask questions as well, because I know a lot of you are excited for that. And then I also want to share with you a brand new project management professional certification class. This is self-learning, structured learning. And we just recently became a official PMP partner. And part of that, excuse me, was new slides, a new outline for the learning. And also what I liked about what PMI said in terms of these training slides is that they're sort of reiterating a lot of the concepts, which I like. The slides look really good. The pictures are great. And so then I went ahead and created some videos around it, homework, and additional assessments. So I'm excited to share that with all of you. Now, the current PMP product that you have is not going to go away. We're going to allow you to keep your current class. You might be halfway through it or all the way through it. You may like some of the resources. We are going to keep that for you for another 6 months. But in addition to the current version of the PMP online class that you have, we are going to give everyone access to the new one. The new class does come with a hard copy book, and I'll show you all what it looks like. It looks something like this. It's PMI authorized PMP. It's good. I mean, the slides, the pictures of the slides within the book are very small. It just has some descriptions within it. I do have some soft copy of the materials for you. Now, if you want me to order this book for you, the cost is $250. So if that's something you want, reach out to, send an email to team@3tinstitute.com and we can get you a copy of the book. And once Kristen does her, she shares her story, I'll show you all what the new class looks like. 2, we're also moving to a new student community, or number 3, we're moving to a new student community. That means that you will all receive access to a community that's right inside of our student portal. So you don't need to memorize another username or password. It's all integrated into one system. So when you log in, you'll see your PMP classes or whatever classes you've taken with 3T Institute, and then the community. I think Asma, you've taken what, like 3 or 4 classes with us? She's taken SAFE, Project, Schedule Class, PMP, I think 3.
And OneNote.
Oh, did you take OneNote with me?
Yes, ma'am. You don't remember?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
No, it was you.
Was it me? Okay. Well, 4 classes. So some of you, your product library is going to look different depending on the number of classes you've taken with us. But in conjunction to that, you will have a student community box. I'll talk more about that. So stick around after Kristen shares her story. so I can showcase how to get started with the new curriculum, especially if you've taken a live class and you went through the holidays and you sort of don't know where to pick up from. This new class is going to help you do that. So stick around if you want to pass this exam in the next 30 days or 35 days. All right, Kristen, you ready? Awesome. Well, Kristen, I want to give you guys a little bit of background story. I've known Kristen now for maybe 4 or 5 years. We were introduced to each other through a mutual friend. And aside from her taking the PMP class, I think we're advocates of each other. We're both moms and we're both business owners. So there's a lot of commonality there. So I was excited when she said, Majuba, I want to take the PMP class, with 3T with us. And I said, oh my God, I can't disappoint my friend. I have to make sure that, this entire process works for her. And I was happy to see her accomplish her goal towards the end. So welcome. And Kristen, I'm sure everyone's excited to hear your story. Please share, how you began your journey. What made you think of getting the PMP and how you utilize the 3T process and then getting to exam day and passing.
Thank you, Majuba. Yes, we have quite the history. Majuba has been wonderful to me over the years. She's been a great mentor, a great friend. So you guys are all in good hands. I'm sure you already knew that. I started my journey, I'll start off kind of just a quick comprehensive background of myself. I'm a veteran, and when I got out, I went back for my bachelor's. Through networking, I ended up going down a different career path than I anticipated, but everything happens for a reason. And I got into government consulting, and I was a senior business analyst for several years. And then I had my beautiful baby boy. He's 4 years old. So I guess he's not a baby anymore. But he's also special needs. And I just really needed a little bit more of a work-life balance. And so I migrated over to a position as a project manager for a nonprofit organization, and was able to get a little more of that flexibility that I was hoping for. So I was fortunate to get a project management position without having my PMP, but one of the contingencies of the offer was that I'd be willing to get my PMP at some point. And I was like, sure, why not? They offered to go ahead and pay for my PMI membership. And kind of a funny story, when I signed up for the membership, like I actually inadvertently went ahead through the entire application process without knowing like I was starting my 1-year eligibility. I just went for the whole thing. I submitted my application and PMI accepted it. And then I realized my 1-year calendar had started, that I was like, oh my gosh, now I have to take this exam within a year, which a year seems like a long time, but it can get away from you very quickly. So my year was approaching. I went to Majuba, and as she mentioned, I had a very aggressive timeline. I believe it was, I looked at the calendar when we met, it was December 5th, and I had scheduled my exam for January 20th. And full disclosure, I had not really done any type of studying other than my experience working as an analyst, as a project manager. I had no formal education for the PMP exam. So I was very nervous, but I've made the promise to myself and to Majuba that I would dedicate myself to the process that she has outlined and her course. So I did the self-paced course. I was not able to do the live because I did not want to be an interruption. My son would have made himself very, very well known on the live class. So I decided to do the self-pace, and basically I tried to compress my schedule by so for those of you who may be doing the self-pace, it's a 6-week program, and you attempt to complete it within that 6 weeks. I set the goal to complete it within 3 weeks for myself, and I was able to do that. And then I went into exam preparation. I used the 30-day calendar, but again, I worked with Majuba to create a compressed schedule of being able to make sure I got all of my exams in, but I was still allowing myself that time to review the results. As I went through the class itself, I basically listened to everything Majuba said to do. I wrote down my flashcard words, the questions that were throughout the self-paced course. I would use those. I would pause, I'd rewind, I'd listen to them again. I would, if I got it wrong, I would go back, read the answers again, kind of dissect what the question was, use the context within the question to see where I may have made a mistake and why I selected the wrong answer. And the same for the right answers. When I got it right, I'd go back, I'd look for the context of what led me to choose that answer. And then as I moved into my exam preparation, again, I just listened to Majuba, and she said, make sure the biggest takeaway is to know why you got the answer right and why you got the answer wrong. So as I moved through those exams, I was very diligent in going back and reviewing the answers, rereading the questions as I reviewed the answers, referencing the study material that Majuba provided to give myself more context around those answers. As I moved through the exams, I would write down notes to myself of areas that I felt I had identified my weaknesses and I needed to go back and reference the study material more. So I did do that. It was very, I don't want to make this sound like it was easy. It was a very tough 6 weeks. I would wake up at 5 a.m. to take practice exams that were timed before my son would wake up. I would stay up late to review those answers after he went to bed. But one of the other things that I think was really critical to my success is I dedicated myself to my studies, but I also would encourage you to make sure you're giving yourself mental breaks. Even though I had a very strict timeline for myself, I still, I'm a single parent. So, I had to make sure I took time away from, being my face in a book or in my iPad, when I was doing the exams. And I carved out time to turn my brain off and reset and go do something with my son. And that was really critical for me because it kind of gave me time away. I would tell Majuba, I'm like, sometimes if I would study too long or I would not give myself those breaks, all of the information would kind of start to seem like the same thing. Like I was reading the same stuff, like it all just kind of would run together. So give yourselves breaks to kind of turn your brain off. Don't take a whole week off, but half a day or a day on a weekend is not going to make or break. And it's definitely critical to giving yourself the energy to keep propelling forward. As I approached my exam, the week of, I was strictly just taking the practice exams and then referencing study material as I would cross-reference the results of my exams, as well as the questions. Again, something I think I found to be most helpful is to pull out context words. When I took the exam, I noticed there would be several answers that would seem like they could be the correct answer. And what was essential for me when I would review the question is that I would pull out context information within the question and the answer that was most applicable to that information. And then also keeping in mind, I felt personally the exam was very agile focused. So I always tried to keep in my mind when I was answering the questions, the best interest, the answer that had the best interest of the people, the best interest of the project. And when those things intersected, I tried to choose my answers with that mentality. I used my entire time on the exam. So one of the things I think I did my first sitting, they break it up into 60 questions. I went into a little bit of analysis paralysis, but I had to reset on my break. Take your breaks. The breaks are important, even if you just go to the bathroom, get a drink of water, but they are important. And I had to make sure I did not go into analysis paralysis on part 2 and 3. It also, for those of you who may have that same kind of weakness and where you overthink things, that's definitely one of mine. I would recommend when you do take the exam, one of the things I was able to do is flag the question. That way you can go back and review it. You also have a highlighting capability. And so usually when I was stuck on a question, it was between 1 or 2 answers. So I would select an answer and I would highlight the other answer that I was between. So I would select the one that I thought was the most correct, but I would highlight the one that was my secondary. And then I would go back and review that before I submitted. I don't leave anything blank, because if you run out of time, you don't get to go back, and then you're guaranteed to get it wrong. So that was kind of my experience in a nutshell. I wanted to try to run through it quickly to give you all the opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you, Kristen, for that. I think from my end, did you have any math questions, network diagram questions, or earned value management questions on the exam?
I did not have any formula questions. I was very shocked to not even see one. I did have earned value management questions. What was the other one you mentioned?
Earned value network diagram question.
And I did have a couple of the network diagram questions.
And was it to draw a network diagram, or was it just what are the relationships between an activity?
It was the relationships. Yeah, I didn't have to draw one. The other thing that I did notice is that the concepts, the tools and techniques, the processes that you study, when you go into the exam, they may not specifically call that out. I found more often than not, they were not calling out the name of something black and white, like what you study. So it is really important to have like a well-rounded understanding of what those things mean, because they will, in fact, basically describe it for you and give you in your answers. They may call it something else that essentially means the same thing. So it's really important to not try to use like a memorization tactic, because they're not going to use the formal definition or the formal term a good portion of the time.
That is such a good tip. And that's everything that I say is focus on the why. Why does this process exist? Why do we need to create the plan? Who is the product owner? What's the difference between a product owner and project manager? And so thank you for that. And I agree with what Kristen said. In terms of the question types, did you notice that it was more agile or more waterfall? And what was the length of the questions? 2 sentences, 3 sentences, paragraph long? What was your observation there?
They were all very wordy. I think somebody at PMI is a wordologist. And so they were very wordy. I would say on average, probably at least 3 sentences. There were very few questions that I would say were 1 to 2 sentences. And I would say a good 75% of my questions were agile, hybrid, and then the other portion were more waterfall.
Awesome. And was it clear that it was an agile question? Like, would they say backlog or sprint planning, iteration? Was it obvious that it was an agile question versus a waterfall question?
They really mixed it up a lot. There were questions they would specifically call out the type of, if it was waterfall or agile. So they switched it up in that, where there were times they would not give you that context information and you would have to determine that yourself. by, identifying, they would talk about the product backlog or product owner, and or Scrum practices, using a Scrum framework. So you would have to kind of make that assumption yourself.
Thank you for that. And would you say, you said you used up all 4 hours and 20 minutes, which comprises of 2 10-minute breaks. So you used your entire time?
Yeah, so it's what, 230 minutes, and then in addition, they add on your 2 10-minute breaks. It does not take away from your time. Yes, I did use the majority. I think I had a few seconds left when I submitted my exam. So it was a little nerve-wracking coming down to that final time. On my first 60 questions, I knew I made the mistake of over analyzing and not flagging the question sooner and moving on. So I made sure to rectify that in the second and the third portion. So that way I didn't, run out of time before I was able to answer all the questions.
Awesome. I have more questions, but I will allow the students to ask you some questions in reference to the exam. Amir raised his hand first. So Amir, please go ahead and ask Kristen. One question a person, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your experience. Is that most of the question is a multiple choice, or you have to fill the blank?
Majority were multiple choice. I did have a few questions that were matching. So they would give you a list of descriptions, and then they would give a list of terms, and you would have to match them together. I did not have any that were fill in the blank.
Thank you.
Great question, Amir. Vida, please go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Was there a specific, all the exam questions that you utilized to practice, were they all through Majuba? And if so, how would you compare them to the actual real exam questions? Because I actually took the PMP 3 years ago and I failed. And I know that there was like some websites that I found exam questions that were more similar to the actual test and some that were like way off. So I'm wondering if you have any specific resources that were very similar to the way the exam questions were asked.
So I actually used all of Majuba's practice exams. I don't know if Majuba wants me to say this or not, but Majuba's practice exams were much more difficult, which I actually appreciated. And I don't want to set the expectation that you all need to, or that you have to reach a certain point on Majuba's exams because you think the PMP is going to be easier. I don't think that it was easier. I just think that the way Majuba's questions are structured, it really forces your brain to go into the critical thinking mode and really dissect. It teaches you that ability to really dissect what the question is asking, so you can use all of the information you're being given to make the best selection. Because there's absolutely going to be questions where 2, maybe 3 answers would really be the appropriate answer. They're not, it's not your high school test where it's like, they give you some crazy wild answer that doesn't make sense, and then another one that doesn't make sense. And you're like, oh, what has to be one of these 2? A lot of the answers that they give you will absolutely seem like they could be the correct answer.
Okay, thank you.
What other questions? Raise your hand if you have questions for Kristen. While others raise their hand, what was the testing environment like in terms of, I know you took the test at a testing center. Why the testing center for you versus the house? And then what was that environment like, and how did you set yourself up for success for the testing environment?
Yeah, so one of the things I did is I went online on Google reviews and I read some reviews about the testing center, and I looked at pictures of the testing center. I looked at Google Maps, the street view, to know what the building looked like whenever, I was driving there, so I didn't get lost. I chose the testing center because I do have a 4-year-old son that would have probably failed me by like the 3rd question with his background noise. So I also felt that I needed a neutral environment rather than being overly comfortable in my own home, trying to take the exam, or somewhere else trying to take the exam online. So that's why I chose the testing center. My testing facility was, the facilitators there were really nice. They were very helpful. They answered any questions I had before I went in. It was clean. It was ours was pretty small. I live in right around Charleston, South Carolina. So I went to Charleston. So it was this relatively small room. There was probably only a handful of people there. So I think that that was nice as well. It wasn't overcrowded. I took my test in a partitioned station. So they provided me with noise canceling headphones. It was a little stressful. suffer from anxiety. I went in, they have you, just like they say, they have you put all your belongings in a locker. You can't take your water in. I drank a lot of water. So I was a little nervous about, I was like, oh, I won't be able to drink water. I did take a drink of water on my breaks, but they have you pull your pockets out. They check, make sure they check. I have tattoos on my arms. They checked my tattoos to make sure I didn't have answers tattooed on me. They checked my eyeglasses. They examined my eyeglasses. So that was my experience with the testing center. But once, I kind of acclimated, I made sure to get there early. I calmed down and I was able to, get in the zone.
Thank you, Kristen. Vida, go ahead.
I understand the test now is not so much based on memorization of terms, but I was just curious if you performed a brain dump.
Do you mean like whenever I sat down for my exam, did I do a brain dump on the paper they gave me?
Yes, correct.
So I actually did not. They will tell you, before you start your exam, you're not allowed to write anything. You are only allowed to write once you start the timer. So, and I ended up not using the paper provided to me at all. I didn't feel I needed it, especially since I didn't have any formula questions.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good question, Vida. I actually don't even teach the brain dump anymore. I used to at one point. I used to have mnemonics, brain dump, memorizing the 5 process groups, memorizing the 10 knowledge areas. The entire teaching approach has changed with the new update to the exam. It really is, like Kristen said, about either you understand it or you don't. Great question. This exam is proctored. If you take it at home, it's proctored. Like Kristen said, she went to a testing center. You choose to take it from the office. Someone's watching you, like I'm watching all of you right now. And if you are reading your questions and moving your lips, they're going to tell you to stop. If you're looking away too many times, they're going to tell you to stop. And if you continue to break the rules, they'll end your exam and you'll have to either reschedule or your account will be suspended. So it's very serious that, you follow all the guidelines. Now it's 180 questions and you have 4 hours and 20 minutes. 20 minutes because you get 2 10-minute breaks. The key importance here is sometimes people think, oh my God, I need to learn this content. And yes, it is about understanding the standards and the exam content outline. But guys, this is a marathon. You need to learn to sit on your butt for at least an hour at a time. Take short 10-minute breaks, then sit again. It's an endurance test. Can you sit and take an exam for 4 hours? Most of us adults have not sat for an exam, a standardized exam like this for over maybe 10 years. So it's more about, can you sit down? Can you concentrate? Our attention span today in this world is about 2.5 minutes. So this is a lot. It has a lot to do with understanding and also building your endurance. I wanted to add that. Eric, please go ahead and ask your question.
It's not a question, it's a comment. I took a sister exam last Sunday and took it from home. And just to echo what you said, MJ, they are very strict. If I was anybody, I would take the exam in a testing center because I had to do my wrist, look at my tongue, look at my laptop, my walls in my house. It was a half hour before I took the exam because of the prep work before it. So if you can, all means take at a testing center. So
Thank you for that input. So sounds like you've got the practice with the standardized tests, and that's a difficult one. But what other questions do you guys have for Kristen? She's right here. She took the exam.
I really quick, I do want to echo your comment, Majuba, on working through those practice timed exams, the full, time in the portal. You have the ones that are the smaller portion, but the ones that are the full exam amount, absolutely. Like, I don't think I would have had the endurance to sit through the exam had I not taken several of those. Those were definitely critical to me feeling ready.
Let's talk about those, because I always say 30-day study calendar, exam portal. Take the time, take the non-time to understand why you get the questions wrong and right. Build your endurance, because that's the way to pass the exam. I do have students who don't believe me, don't trust the process, but are in this school. But I always say, if you're an expert, then you don't need me. But if you want to pass this exam and you want to pass it on the first try, then trust the process. And part of the process means if you're doing the structured learning or live class, you can only grasp about 40 to 50% of the content, which means the rest of the knowledge comes from practice exams. If you choose not to do the practice exams, you're choosing to fail the exam altogether, and you're going to be out of a lot of money. The exam fee itself is about $555. So trust the process, it works. And when I say to you, practice exams are the way, like Kristen mentioned as well, you will pass this exam, because it will test you. It will test your patience. It will test your attention span. It will test your knowledge, and you will be a whole nother person when you come out of this PMP exam, because it is not easy. Kristen, Martha has a question for you. She says, how many mock exams did you take?
I put an answer in the chat because I don't want to
Okay.
interrupt you, but yes, I took all of the smaller ones that were domain focused, and then all the ones that led up to the longer exams, but I took 3 full practice exams of the 185 questions.
Awesome.
I would say that that's probably the minimum. That was, or everybody is different. That was my minimum to feel prepared. I was still nervous going in. I also want to tell you that just because I'm a very transparent person, when I submitted my exam, my actual exam, not a practice exam, I still didn't know if I passed or failed. I was like, the questions were that critical. They were that, just the application of everything that you're learning. It made me question myself. So they have them worded so well. There's ones where there was enough that I'm like, I don't know if I passed this exam or not. So it's definitely like Majuba said, the endurance, making sure that you are knowing why you got them right, why you got them wrong. I know I did my best when I submitted it. That was something I was sure of. I gave my best effort. So
yeah, thank you for mentioning that. It is, no one ever feels 100% ready on that test day, but you've done enough. And you feel ready to go in. And there's a difference between, I think I'm ready, and knowing that you haven't done all the work, but where you feel nervous and anxious, but you're ready and you're giving yourself a fair chance. Another question is from Melanie. She says, how long did it take for you to find out if you passed?
So as soon as I submitted, it gave me one more prompt that I was submitting. I couldn't go back. I finalized that, and I was notified immediately. But PMI is very anticlimactic, so it's just a screen with a paragraph. There's no like virtual confetti or anything like, "Yay, you did it." So when it came up, I actually thought I failed because it was this paragraph that they made you read to find out if you passed or not. once I started to read, it said congratulations. So I was like, well, okay, well that's a good sign. Congratulations. So yeah, you do find out immediately. I don't know if every testing facility is the same. You'll go up front, they'll give you a initial printout of what your results were, how you did in the domains. And then I don't know if this is something that's new, Majuba, you will probably definitely have more insight on this, but PMI, a couple of days later, they gave me a more like broke down outline of how I did on the exam.
Yeah, that's that has been available through the testing site. And basically what they do is they take the exam content outline and per domain, and they tell you how close you were to answering the question right. So for each exam content outline within the domain. So yes, and that's a good way. I mean, you pass above target in all domains, but for those who fail, it's a good indicator of where was my knowledge and what did I not understand within that exam content outline. Yeah. All right, we've got a question from Cynthia, and we're gonna stop taking questions. Well, I'll take one more after Cynthia, and then I'll go into showing you the class. Cynthia, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, so this is as far as exam preparedness, like the day before. And I know this might be specific to people because some guys might like looking over their flashcards and, you know, just do like a last minute cram session. What was your experience with that? And do you have any advice going into the exam or the day before the exam?
So the day before, I actually took one more practice exam. And then I had, for the day of the exam, I'm a morning person. I also like to work out. So I made sure to schedule my exam at a time where I could have my morning routine. I was able to get my workout in. I was able to have breakfast and take my time, you know, to get my day started, but not so late in the day that I started to feel fatigued. So I had my exam scheduled for 10:30. I did not do any studying on the day of my exam. I didn't want to try to like put myself into overdrive and, you know, start trying to consume all the information and then just go in feeling like I was a little overwhelmed. So I timed my exam to be the week. So I took it on Friday. Last week we had Martin Luther King as a holiday. I was able to take, or I was off work for that day. So I wanted to time it, you know, I had some extra time leading up to it that I could really dedicate that weekend to studying. And I really did. I like hit it really hard that weekend. And then the days leading up to that, I just took any spare time that I had that week to make sure that I was studying. But I'm a believer in just taking care of yourself. So if you like to work out, you know, keeping that as part of your routine, help, you know, with your mental health, keep you on target. Maybe it's my military background, drink water, you know, stay hydrated, make sure you get good sleep, and just take care of yourself before you go into the exam. You're not going to change anything by stressing over it. So, you know, don't try to like keep yourself up all night studying. You're not doing yourself any favors. And, you know, it's really important that you just go in with the best possible state that you can be in.
Yeah, that's all great advice. Exactly what I would say. I generally tell students to stop studying 24 hours before the exam and just review notes. That's enough. And don't take the exam at a time that's odd to your body. Like if you're not a morning person, don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Like don't take the exam in the morning, take it in the afternoon. But if you're a morning person and you're really sharp in the mornings, then take your exam in the morning. And you know yourself better than anyone else. So listen to your physiology. If you work out, continue to work out, eat healthy. Don't try any new foods before your exam, you know, and so don't do anything new before your exam. so that you're fully prepared on that day. Here's the thing, what you guys have at 3T. Thank you, Kristen, so much. I know you guys have to go back to your little cutie. I appreciate you being here, giving us so much insight, being transparent, sharing your experience. That's why I love you, and I invited you here. So thank you. I encourage all of you to follow Kristen on LinkedIn. If you have your LinkedIn link, share it so that people can follow you and see your journey into project management, because you became a PM and then got your PMP. There's really no like this very straight line. There's an opportunity. We take it even when we feel a little nervous. So her story is inspiring, and I'm sure she'll be happy to connect with all of you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Majuba.
Kristen.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to the group for having me on the call. I definitely appreciate it. I wish you all best of luck when you do go to take your exam. You're in fantastic hands with Majuba. She knows her stuff.
Thank you, Kristen. Yes, and the good thing is that it's not just me. We've got our great coaches, Sarah and Bill. We're an entire team of individuals who are here cheering you on. And I want to go ahead and share with you our system, right? Because if some of you have been out of touch with the class or have not been in the live class for a little bit, then I want to show you our PMP certification training for 2023. The format looks different. It's done on purpose, and but it's the same concept. You have all of your course materials, intro to the class, and it's still, excuse me, divided by weeks. Now, the way I present the material is different. It's still the same material, still the same processes, the same documents that you're learning, the same standard, but presented to you in a more updated visual way, in a more dynamic way, if I can say that. At the end of each week, you still have a homework to complete, but what you also have here that I've added is end of the week. Where is it? Am I not week one? I have slides right on top, and then at the end of the week, why can't I see it? Maybe it's, oh, here it is. You have a lesson mastery quiz. So whatever you've learned, I've put in a lesson mastery quiz for you that you can take and say, you know what, I captured everything that I needed to. I'm continuing to build on this. I will have end of the week summaries for you and things like that. But, you know, I've added some new things. So like I said, this is going to be available to you in the next 24 to 48 hours. All of your course materials are soft copy. That's what I believe in. I don't think you need to spend any more money on hard copy materials. And what we also have is the coaching calls right here to the right. Coaching calls happen every Wednesday. Kristen attended the coaching calls. She leaned on Bill and Sarah to ask her questions. I supported her along the way, like I told all of you. You have a midway assessment with me, and you have at the end, when you finish your class, before taking your exam, I assess your exam scores to tell you whether you're going to pass or not. So that's something that happens at the end of week 6. That's not here, but you all know that if you have the other product at the end of week 6, you can schedule another time, but you all have my email address and can email me and say, look, I'm ready to take this thing. So this is a new class. You're going to get it. Look through it, see if you like this. The other thing I want to showcase is the student community. This is right inside of Kajabi, right? This is the platform we use. And all of our meetups, all of the coaching calls are going to be under what's known as meetups. And you'll see it. And you will no longer have the coaching call recordings product. We're going to get rid of that. All of the coaching call recordings will be right as the coaching call is done. It will automatically record inside of your feed. So you'll join the live room for your meetup. You'll see the coaching call times here. You'll join the live room. You'll have a coach there. You can ask your questions and then drop off. So those are the two new products. Again, everyone will get access in the next, excuse me, I had a cold and this cough's not going away, 24 to 48 hours. Any questions about the Any questions about the new student community or the new PMP class? Melanie says, yeah, go ahead.
I might have missed it because I wasn't on the screen when you first went in. Will it be just listed there as a class like it is, like the class is now? Like once you
Yes.
first log into
Yes, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you all, and everyone can see my screen, right?
yes, I can see it.
Okay, so for me, it says I'm logged in already, but everyone's going to log in, 3tinstitute.com. I'm going to go ahead and put this link for you. Favorite it. If you have not favored this link, and then you're going to put your email address that you registered and paid with for this class and your password. If you don't remember your password, reset it. You'll get a link and it will reset it for you. You sign in. For me, I'm an admin, so I have every product available, but for you, it's going to say PMP 2023 and then student community. And that's where you go in, start training, and you'll see your new class outline. Again, the current PMP product that you have will remain. Every single person as part of 3T is going to get this updated 2023. There's no additional fee. I'm not charging anyone anything. The coaching calls remain. You're still going to get the same support, still the same exam portal. None of this expires until you pass. And even when you pass, you'll need those PDUs. This week, I had so many students reach out to me and they're like, how do I update my certification? I need 60 PDUs. You come in here and you watch an updated class and you get your PDUs. Yes, Ildi, everyone is going to get this new class. So I'll have this recording available. And then anyone else that's watching this, you'll have it. If you're a CAPM student and you're watching this video, I'm working on a new CAPM class as well, and we'll have that up for you. So that's the two new products. In terms of getting restarted, right? What are some of the challenges that everyone's facing right now? Put in the chat box. What are your current challenges in getting organized and focused on passing this exam? What are some of your challenges? Let's address those. I'll address those really quickly, and then we'll end the call. What are your biggest challenges right now? Work hours and workload. Yeah, and so I'm assuming, Candace, that you're probably working more than 40 hours a week. Yeah. So in your case, what you have to do is you need to look at your work schedule, and it may be that weekdays are like total no-goes for you in terms of studying. So for you, you have to look at your Saturdays and Sundays. You want to get some advocates, family members, tell everyone, look, I'm studying for this PMP exam. All of your shows, record them. Netflix, we know those shows don't go anywhere. But you need to go ahead and pull up that 30-day calendar, because that 30-day calendar might be a 40-day calendar for you because of how aggressive your work schedule is. But that's the foundation that's going to get you to say, you know what, I planned to do my a quick mock exam on Sunday at 5 p.m. and I need to hold myself accountable for that. Put it on your iPhone calendar, put reminders for yourself, put stickies on the mirrors in your bathroom and say, don't forget, study for the PMP. Remember why you started. So if you don't do things like that, right, not just you, Candace, but really everyone else in here, because I know most of us are parents working full-time, some of us are working 2 jobs. If you don't hold yourself accountable in that way, this will become a 4-year goal. It will become a 5-year goal. I have students in this program who signed up when I first started 3T Institute, and they still haven't finished it. They have good excuses, yet those excuses don't ever go away. If you don't, it's just part of life. Let's see. Melanie says, I knew before starting the class that I would have an extended break time before continuing class study in the beginning of the year. That's totally fine. Get back to this. These are the questions you want to ask yourself. If you have been away from the class for a year, you need to restart the studying on your own. If you've been away from the class, say, I would say 6 months to a year, you need to understand the concepts. It's too long for you to just go back and review your notes. Now, if you have been away from the class for about 2 to 3 months, you still have a chance to review your notes and listen to the summaries at the end of the week for the current product that you have, so that you can remember the concepts and then get into exam prep with the 30-day calendar or 40-day calendar or 60-day calendar, but get yourself organized. That's important. Lakila says, staying focused. Yes, that is hard to do. Focus means that there's, with focus, you have to say to yourself, you know, do you currently have a good balance and control over your schedule? Like, are you stressed about work, your house, the kids, cooking meals? If so, can you delegate some of that? And these things you don't need to do for the rest of your life. You're doing it for about a month and a half. So are there people who you can delegate some of the work that you currently have, whether it's house chores or kids obligations? Can you get some help? And that way, if you maybe reduce some of your responsibilities, you might be able to take on and focus on the PMP. Working 2 jobs. Yep, Crystal, you and I have talked about your situation. You might have to drop one for a little while, because this PMP is going to get everyone 20 to 30% more a year than you only work 1 job and you're loving the paychecks. The other question is tying your goal to a metric, right? I think a lot of us think, oh, this is an exam, I'll take it. No, it's an additional $1,000 a week. Or every 2 weeks, sorry, maybe an additional $30,000 a year on your paycheck. What can you do with $30,000 more a year? What can you do with an additional $1,000 every 2 weeks? Or more? For some, it's more. What will you do with a promotion? How is that going to make you feel? How will you feel knowing that you're going to accomplish this goal? Tie it to a feeling, to a tangible goal, so that you can say, I'm getting this PMP certification for a reason, for your children, for your spouse, for your significant other, for a parent, for a promise you made to yourself, and to maybe prove to your coworkers who doubt you. Why are you doing it? What is your why? So put in the chat box, what is your why? And hold on really firm to that. Write it down and make it your affirmation, and read it every day. Because we, in terms of the program you've enrolled in, we're here for you. We have the structured learning. You have the live classes. You have the weekly coaching calls, right, with your coaches, Sarah and Bill. You have a mock exam portal. You don't need to invest any more funds. You've made the right decision. You're in the right place. Now it's up to you whether you're going to use it or not. Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that, Ildi. Thank you for sharing that. But all of you are capable of passing this exam. Some more good news. Like Kristen said, the mock exams I have for you, yes, they are there to challenge you and ensure that you understand the concepts. So an average on those mock exams, I'm not looking for 100% in any of those, whether you're taking timed or non-timed. If you're getting, there's a range, right? And you need to work with your coach, because everyone is at a different place. If you don't attend those coaching calls and you're not sharing your exam scores, we're not going to know how close you are or how far you are from passing. So you need to come in and you need to share. You can also send me an email. Hey, look, I'm getting 40%, 50% on this mock exam. I took the first mock and I got a 60%. What does that mean? Am I close? Am I far? We will do that analysis for you so that we can build your confidence to go in there and pass the test. And so if you haven't reached out and you haven't joined the coaching calls, this is a time for you to do it, because part of it means that we will hold you accountable to your goal as well. Enough of my coaching. I turned off my camera because it was glitching, but not for any other reason. So thank you everyone for joining tonight. Sarah, I'll start with you. Any thoughts that you want to share with the students in terms of the coaching call or anything else? Please go ahead.
Thanks, Majuba. I think you covered it all really nicely. The coaching calls are your time to be able to get those questions answered, remove those roadblocks, and we are 100% here to support you. So let us do that.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all the hard work with the students, and Sarah's awesome. Sarah used, so Kristen and Sarah are, and including Bill, they're all top performers in the sense that they use the system and they pass the exam within 6 weeks. I think Kristen is a little faster, and then Bill and Sarah passed the exam within 6-7 weeks. And that's why I've brought them back as coaches, because you're learning from people who've actually used the system. They're not just my friends. Now we're friends, but they're students who've actually used the system. Bill, any thoughts you want to share before we end our call?
Sure. Just echoing what Sarah and you just said, that as long as you stay with it and stay committed and evolve your own process, you should be able to pass. I know everybody isn't conducive to the exact same learning style, but everybody has a trick in terms of what engages them and makes them more attentive and the best, and being able to perform at optimum peak performance. And one thing I did want to ask Majuba, I don't know if you agree or not. I was given this idea a couple months ago from a student that passed with the 30-day calendar. Of course, that's like the countdown or like somewhat of a burn down chart in terms of you taking the actual exam. Are you opposed to making it a 60 or 90-day calendar? Maybe not as concentrated as a 30-day calendar, but just to use as an everyday, if not an affirmation, but just to be able to chronicle what you have to do within that week that you have the time to study.
I'm not opposed to changing the calendar. No, I mean, I created it so I can help people pass this exam as efficiently, as effectively as possible. And so I came up with the 30 days, but it can be a 60-day calendar. It can be a daily study calendar. You can go ahead and copy it and make it a study. Actually, you don't even need to create it. I've already created that for you. I will send that over to everyone. It's a study calendar that has all 6 weeks in there, including the assignments that you have to complete. So you can make this a 2-month class and get it done, or you can make it a 3-month class. Now, you can change the rate, but here's what I'm going to tell you all. I would say do it as fast as possible, because things come up in life. And 2 months is a good amount of time, and everyone can take it in 2 months and pass for sure. I would say if you go beyond, like if you go 6 months, then the doubt sets in, and then you're like, wait, did I study enough? I thought I did. What should I do now? Then you get lost. I mean, it's just the questions, take them back to back, not any major breaks, and then go in there and take the exam and pass. Every single one of you will pass. In 2022, we had all of our students pass for the exception of one. And even with the student that does fail, I go back and say, what happened? What do we need to do in the next round? So, but everyone passes. In 2023, I mean, it's just January, we've had about 3 students already pass 100%. And their scores are not in the mock exam portal. Their scores aren't in the 100 percentiles, right? They're not getting 100% in every quiz. They're getting, or exams, they're getting somewhere between 58 to 62%, or 62 to like 68%. So people aren't getting 100%, and that's not what the goal is either. Thank you, Angel, for joining. I loved having you here. It's 9:02. Thank you so much, everyone. Please continue the conversation in next week's coaching session with Sarah and Bill. And you all know that I'm literally an email away. And with most of you, when you email me, I'm like, all right, let's get on a quick call. So don't hesitate to reach out. But your first course, I'm always going to ask you is, did you attend the coaching call? If you haven't attended the coaching calls, haven't been following the process, then I'm going to ask you to do that first before we sort of set like this entire thing for you up and a new plan. Sarah, please go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify. So next week will be the first week that the coaching call is in the new student community.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much. Happy New Year, everyone. You all got it. And I know you'll all pass successfully. Thank you so much for joining tonight. Take care.
Thank
Thank you
Take
for
care.
the
Good night.